Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Charles Booker, Kentucky primary candidate. Quite the momentous, I guess you could say, evening right now on the eve of what we expect to be final results. I'm sure your campaign's hearing different things. The last that I heard, the Associated Press reported you were up by 20 votes at 3 o'clock Eastern. Is that what your campaign is hearing as well, Charles?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And yes, this is like Christmas Eve. We're waiting to open the big prize, which is a chance to finally get rid of Mitch McConnell. And the numbers are steadily coming in. And, it is very close. A lot of it is going to come down to, what areas like Jefferson County, where I'm from, how they perform, and some of the places across Kentucky that are Democratic strongholds. But I'm so proud of the work we've done, the support that we've built across Kentucky and rural parts of Kentucky, places where, they were like, well, Charles, you're a black man. They're never going to vote for you there. We have, overperformed and built an incredible coalition. So I'm excited about tomorrow, and I like our chances.
Obviously there's been a lot of talk about the Black Lives Matter movement and how that's propelled you. But you've been performing, obviously you have Louisville and Lexington, which are strongholds, but you so far have been performing well in other areas outside of Louisville and Kentucky. What do you think was the breakthrough? Was it the Black Lives Matter movement propelling you, or is Kentucky becoming a little bit more progressive than we think? Because Bernie won Kentucky 4 years ago during the primary, and there are pockets that are becoming more progressive as economic inequality, healthcare become bigger issues.
Yeah, I think that there's a reality here, and yes, the national narrative is catching up and seeing a lot of voices speak up across Kentucky that have been counted out. But this movement has been growing for some time now. And we are just the next biggest iteration of what it means for Kentucky right now. Because you got to think about it. The teachers organizing of the last couple of years, public employees organizing, minors taking a stand, and ultimately getting rid of Bevin was really a sign that said that we're tired of the politics. And I think you're right. Seeing so many Kentuckians facing the absolute bottom has lit a fire in us that if we don't stand now, we know it can get worse. We know that more of our loved ones can die. It is that real, and we're not going to let that happen because we love this Commonwealth too damn much. And so because of that, and just the work I've done across Kentucky, I'm a state legislator, but I've made it my job to go across Kentucky to say that I represent you, even if you aren't in my district, because we got to break these silos down. And even working across Kentucky as a director of Fish and Wildlife, working with small farmers, I've been very intentional because I always saw the connection of living in the hood, like the west end of Louisville where I'm from, and other parts of Kentucky, especially in Appalachia, where so many communities are just abandoned. And that's why my message from the hood to the holler is resonating so much, because we see our common bonds. So we've been taking this stand. But yeah, the height of racial tension now on full display in the face of a pandemic has really created this environment where if you show the leadership, and I've just stood up as a Kentuckian to show the leadership that we need now, that folks are ready. Mitch McConnell's not urgent, but we are. And we're ready to win this primary tomorrow, and we're ready to get him out of there.
And, it's interesting to me because obviously Trump's awful, McConnell's awful, but the view has been pushing from Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. We need some, milquetoast moderate. Amy McGrath has talked a lot about being the better candidate to work with Trump. But Kentucky ranks like towards the bottom of the United States in healthcare rankings, not so great in education rankings. So take me inside of that. Why is it that the Democratic Party continues to say Kentucky voters will gravitate more towards the way to take out McConnell is somebody like a McConnell light? when that has never, ever manifested?
Yeah, first of all, that's a joke, and it's grossly offensive. And what it is a symptom of is not listening to people. And this is not just on the Democratic side. Republican side, all of us feel that. No one cares what we think. No one sees us. No one hears us. They talk at us. They talk about us. They tell us they know what's best for us, but they never pay any attention to the challenges we face. And when you do listen to Kentuckians, you see a desire for a more progressive future. You see a lot of frustration about poverty and the fact that it's generational. And you see a lot of people that are fighting to overcome struggle in the face of politicians who don't give a damn about us. And the idea that what we need in this moment, where so many of us are struggling, people are rationing insulin like I've had to do. I'm a type 1 diabetic. People are suffering from trauma, being preyed on from opioids, seeing jobs leave, being left high and dry, miners stranded on the tracks, suffering from black lung, small farmers being choked out. That what we need now is a pro-Trump Democrat, is a slap in the face. And, you know, one thing that I see now is people are tired of the BS. We know it doesn't work, and we can't afford it. And so we're taking this stand not to just get rid of Mitch McConnell. Nobody likes him. Like, nobody likes Mitch McConnell in Kentucky. But this ain't about him. It's about us saying that we deserve a better future, and we're going to fight for it.
Mm-hmm. And how do you view, obviously, I've covered police brutality protests for years. Obviously, this movement that's been going on since George Floyd's murder is a little different. How do you view that if you were to win the nomination, which right now, again, you're up by a small amount? How do you view that coming into play? Because obviously, against McConnell, they do a lot of dog whistling. We see the president he supports. There is a history in Kentucky and elsewhere of flat out racism, unease with black people advancing and in politics, obviously. But the difference now is we see a lot more white allies, I would say, on the front lines next to black people at protests, and not just over police brutality, inequality and injustice in government, media, sports. I mean, it's across the gamut.
Yeah.
How would you, how would that come into play if you are the candidate against McConnell?
Yeah, well, you pretty much described my platform. The fact that this moment with Brianna Taylor, David McAtee, and now Tyler here just in the last day, and nationally with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and so many others who have become a hashtag, it shines a light on the structural challenges, the pervasive challenges within our institutions, which for me, my platform is focused on structural racism and institutional racism and gross inequity. Now, in this moment, we're talking about brutality. And the reason why it's important is because what I'm making clear and what so many Kentuckians are seeing and realizing, which is why they're rallying behind me, is that there is a truth here that because of institutional racism, because of structural racism and inequity, people that look like me or come from where I come from, the wrong side of the tracks, don't have a lot of money, we can be seen as a deadly weapon before being seen as a human being, and that justice may not account for our humanity. And I think the trauma of seeing someone have their door kicked in their home, in their sanctuary, and be killed by the very agency that we pay for to protect and serve us has just jarred the conscience of a lot of people that didn't think that this experience connected to them. That creates the opportunity. It creates a chance for us to push on real system level reform in how we imagine public safety, addressing the fact that more and more money into policing does not yield safer communities. And in fact, having a militarized law enforcement where they see our neighborhoods as war zones and see us as enemy combatants does not mean that families are safer. And it doesn't mean that those men and women in uniform that are actually trying to do the work of protecting and serving us, it doesn't mean that they're safer either. And so it creates the chance for us to have a bigger conversation about, yes, reimagining public safety, dramatically reimagining policing, but also getting to the root causes. And there's a truth here, man, that in Kentucky, We have one of the highest incarceration rates, especially for women, on the planet. A lot of us deal with poverty in Kentucky, and I live in what has been the poorest zip code in Kentucky for years. We criminalize poverty here. And so if you create an environment where people are poor, then they're being put in jail because they're poor, and then their families are broken apart and jobs are taken away, resources are taken away. They're trying to dismantle public education. Mitch McConnell wants the state to go bankrupt. You rob everyone of the chance to do anything better. Then you see how we keep getting what we get. And so as the next senator, I'm going to have the courage to call out racism and to call out the fact that people like Mitch McConnell have weaponized it, stoked it, profited from it, and laughed to the bank while we languish and while we suffer. But then also saying that we have work to do. That's why I believe in Medicare for all. That's why I believe in a universal basic income. That's why I fully support not just a Green New Deal, but a Kentucky New Deal. We need to get to the root causes of why inequity is so pervasive and why our government is not accountable to us. And ultimately, that means we need to end poverty.
And let me ask you, if the unthinkable happens, first, obviously, you got to win the nomination. If you defeat McConnell, which obviously you're saying it's not unthinkable, you join a lonely choir. I mean, you got Bernie and maybe a few other progressives in the Senate. I think there's another kind of violence going on here, and that is the banks, the lobbyists, the revolving door. You see all these banks putting Black Lives Matter in their windowsill, Amazon putting out messages. But day to day, their practices against black people, brown people, indigenous people are part of that poverty that black people are dealing with, brown people are dealing with, now more white people are dealing with. We're hearing this lip service from corporate America, but they're the ones that got the corporate bailout. They're the ones that got the fruits of the rescue 10 years ago. How do you as a senator help stem that, frankly, what many people view as the great American bank robbery?
Yeah, I mean, that's the real looting. And, I'm one point to make clear. When I go to Washington, because we are going to beat Mitch McConnell, I'm not going by myself. That's why I speak of, and this isn't just cliche, it isn't just a cute word to use. We really are inspiring a movement. And what that means is we're breaking down the barriers for more people to be involved at the local level, school board, their council, the state legislature, being active and organizing in their community, becoming citizen lobbyists, and of course, advocating and fighting at the federal level. So I intend to go to Washington not only with the Commonwealth behind me, but with a country of fed up folks that want change as well. And we're seeing it across the country, man. Senator Sanders running for president and elevating this conversation was really just a start. And he even understood when he said, not me, us, that this wasn't even about him. I'm not doing this for Bernie Sanders. I'm doing this because we know we need real change. We need it yesterday. And to your point of the big money interests, we're not buying the BS. Don't tell me that you think Black Lives Matter. Show me. Show us. Raise wages. Put more equity. Provide more benefits. Support universal health care. Make sure that we're investing in underserved communities instead of dealing with record profits. And what we really need to do is get big money out of politics. I fully support that. I've worked at the state level to do just that and break down barriers to democracy, provide more transparency. We need that at the federal level. But we also need to make sure that though there is meaningful tax reform so that the wealthiest few are paying not just their fair share, but addressing equity. And the fact that Amazon, who can essentially get away with not paying much anything in taxes, has Jeff Bezos on the way to be a trillionaire, it's a shame. It's a travesty. So the big banks, the big corporations are not going to find a friend in me unless they're ready to come off of those profits and invest in the people. And like I said, we got a whole Commonwealth and a big country of folks that are fed up and ready to fight for it.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask you, being out at the protests, I know you've spoken with Brianna Taylor's family over the past few weeks. Can you give us any insight, as much as you're comfortable with, what are they feeling right now? Because we've seen in some areas justice come a lot quicker. The police officers with George Floyd be arrested relatively quickly compared to other cases. Other police officers be fired, but for some dumbfounding reason. Only one officer has been fired in that case, no charges. Can you kind of take us into what's it like there in Kentucky right now? Because her name, with George Floyd and the others, hasn't been as prominent maybe as it should have been.
Yeah, first I'll say that this has hurt an entire community. And I think about Miss Palmer, Brianna's mom. I think about Kenneth, who stood up in the middle of the night to protect the woman that he loves, to see her snatched away by law enforcement. And Brianna was really close to my family. She was good friends to my cousin, TJ, who was murdered on Easter Sunday. And we're dealing with a lot of trauma. But what we are showing now is a whole lot of resolve. You are seeing a Commonwealth that is inspired and not going back and not sitting down. And we're taking on the bureaucracy. We are taking on the structural challenges that have allowed essentially our law enforcement to have absolute immunity. And because we are taking on those challenges and fighting back, you've seen the Louisville Metro Council ban no-knock warrants. And you're seeing a concerted push from the community now to make sure that those contracts for law enforcement are renegotiated this year, so that the next time any incident comes up, there can be immediate accountability. And we're putting pressure on our local leadership. They're putting pressure on the mayor to be responsive, on the governor to be responsive. And so what we're seeing now is a fighting spirit. And it's translating in my campaign because that's been my platform, and because the people of Kentucky have seen me stand on the front lines. I was hit with tear gas myself. And as much as it hurt, I knew that we couldn't back down. Kentuckians are showing the type of resolve we need to win, and that's why we will win.
And last question, again, don't want to jinx you, but assuming tomorrow goes well for you, we're expecting final results tomorrow. What's your message going up, to the mountains of Kentucky, parts where, Mitch McConnell is going to call you a socialist boogeyman, wants to bankrupt Kentucky, blah, 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 blah. What's your message outside of Louisville, Kentucky, to those Republicans who might, on some issues be closet progressives, but just have been internalizing a lot of propaganda for years?
Yeah, well, my first message is that I love you. This is about family. This is about us taking a stand because we want our future to be better. It ain't about politics. I don't care about politics. I don't care about Mitch McConnell. I'm tired of seeing people I care about suffering. I'm tired of seeing parts of Kentucky be left behind and thrown off the cliff like we don't matter. And that this is a moment where we are taking this stand for us. We're going to beat Mitch McConnell because we don't have a choice. We have to get him out of the way so that we can do the work of ending generational poverty. And for everyone that, has felt like their voice doesn't matter, I'm saying now's the time. I don't trust politicians. That's why I'm doing this. We need more regular people that understand the struggle, that have lived it, that aren't going to pander, aren't going to be protested, and not going to BS, but tell the truth and show up and fight back. And that is my story. That's what I've learned through my legacy of Kentuckians fighting for desegregation, fighting for change, standing on the picket line. And I know that it works. And through faith, my mom always told me, if you have a little bit of faith the size of a mustard seed, you can speak to a mountain. That mountain has to move. It's time for Mount McConnell to move, and we're going to do it.
Your lips to God's ears. Would love to see Mitch McConnell face a real challenge, and you might be the one to do it. Like I said, we might get final results tomorrow. Right now, you're up by a little bit, so thanks for taking the time. Good luck, and thanks for everything you're doing.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for elevating this. Check in tomorrow. We'll have some good news for you.
All right. That's Charles Booker. Thanks, Charles. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.